A true champion rises to the occasion, and Blaine Johnson had earned a position of ultimate success at 300 miles per hour. He did it with the strength of family, with the bond of brotherhood, and he did it with a sense of pride only found in the greatest champions. He would leave us doing what he loved best, and what others loved to watch him do so well. Blaine epitomized all that is good and decent in the drag racing sport, and now watches over so others can do the same. The annual U.S. Nationals are usually laced with festivity, but in early qualifying, Blaine Johnson met with ultimate tragedy just before the finish line. The very next day, Top Fuel motorcycle rider Nhra also lost his life in a top-end accident, setting a somber tone here at Indy. It has indeed been a tough weekend here at the U.S. Nationals, but let me tell you a story of courage. Nhra was one of Jim Head's very best friends. Jim was so distraught after the accident, he left Raceway Park, not planning to make the final qualifying run. But to his crew's amazement, he returned with Blaine Johnson's brother Alan in tow. And with Alan's help, the car was prepared, and Jim Head had the ride of his life at 4.70 seconds. Race day, round number one. Jim Head, the Smokin' Joe's car, another very solid performance at 4.77 seconds to beat former U.S. Nationals champion Donnie Coletta. Alan, not only are you here, the entire Travers Tool team is here with Jim Head. It's where you need to be at the races.
Well, you know, this is what we love to do. This is what my brother loved to do. And, you know, he wouldn't want it any other way. You know, he'd be over here if he could still be here. So,
will this car go quicker yet?
And we think so. That wasn't a very good run for it. We had some problems. So, if we get lucky enough, and maybe Blaine will help us a little bit from upstairs, and we can make it run good enough to win the next round.
Go get him.
Thank you.
But the big dog going into eliminations was Kenny Bernstein, the number 2 qualifier, and Bernstein low elapsed time of round number 1 with a stunning 4.64.
That's a great run, a great start. Hats off to the boys. And I don't know how long we're going to be around today. You never know in this game. But right now, before we go any further, this one's for Blaine. Whatever happens, this is for you, buddy.
Well, I hope Alan Johnson is right that the Head car can run quicker, because in the second round, they will face off with Kenny Bernstein in the Budweiser King. Got a great funny car story for you, too. Here's Ralph Shaheen.
Driving a 6,000 horsepower nitro funny car is not what your average senior citizen does. However, if you're Ray Higley, it's exactly what you do for your retirement. Now, Ray's just an old Southern California fuel alter driver, so 6,000 horsepower isn't going to scare him. And he's been doing it in fine fashion these days with the help of Roland Leon. Here at the U.S. Nationals, he ran a 5 flat in qualifying to put himself number 3 in the field of 16. He wasn't through yet, however. He came back out in round number 1 against Brad Platt, whooped this baby sideways just like a fuel alter driver could, ran a 5.03, and he's marching on to round number 2.
It's been good getting here. I don't know how else to explain it. When you get my age, you're just going to go for it. That's all there is to it.
Number 1 qualifier and points leader John Force could clinch the Winston Funny Car title with the help, of course, of Austin Coyle and Bernie Federle. He would also need to finish this race 2 rounds ahead of teammate Tony Petragon and 1 round ahead of Tony's brother Cruz. Now to the Pro Stock pits and Bob Fry.
The Johnson family honors now rest squarely on the shoulders of son Kurt. WJ, who had come into this still thinking about that Winston championship, the man that had won 4 consecutive U.S. Nationals, 16 straight rounds here, never got out of round number 1, and his title hopes were seriously dashed. In that opening round matchup against Jerry Eckman, WJ broke a weld on the wheelie bar, and it sent him squirrely out of the starting gate, and WJ was never in that first round match. To add insult to injury for WJ in the opening round, it was Bob Glidden against Jim Yates, the current points leader. Yates was slower on the racetrack, but quicker off the starting line, and that proved to be a deadly combination for Bob Glidden, who had also once won this event 4 consecutive times. So coupled with WJ going out in round number 1, Jim Yates advancing into the semifinals, all the Johnson family can hope to do right now is that son Kurt can punch out Jim Yates and slow up their bid for the Winston Championship. The Top Fuel cars are on the line. For more on that action, let's go back to the booth.
Thank you, Bob Fry. Indeed, round number 2, Top Fuel, and this is a huge story. Tony Schumacher, he's not only a rookie, this is his first ever Top Fuel race, and here he is in the second stanza.
You might not recognize this car, but it is Larry Dixon, the silver paint scheme in commemoration of Miller's 25-year anniversary in motorsports. Here's a look at the top half of the Top Fuel ladder here at the U.S. Nationals after round number 1. And on the bottom side, it went like this. Bernstein Head, Corey Mack, and Eddie Hill all advancing.
And this is definitely the tough side of the ladder. Bernstein, a former U.S. Nationals champ. And here is the defending champion, Larry Dixon, as Ralph said, in the brand new Don the Snake Prudhomme car. Not only is it new paint, it is a brand new race car as well. Crew Chief Wes Sony thought they just didn't have everything. They've rebalanced this car. Murph McKinney built the machine, qualified number 9, which disappointed them. Tony Schumacher, the Pig Brothers Racing out of Colorado, got his license at Vandermeer Speedway a week ago. He was scheduled to race Blaine Johnson, and this was his version of a missing man formation in honor of Blaine. Tony told me later, Ralph, that it's a good thing they had decided to just idle the car down the racetrack because he couldn't have seen through his tears to run all out.
Not too many of us could see the run through ours as well. It's a pretty emotional moment.
What pressure on the second generation driver over in the far lane up against a guy who was a rookie himself a year ago. The top lights in the Christmas tree, just the pre-stage, they're in. Taking their time, both in simultaneously. Dixon smokes the tires. Tony Schumacher with lots of motor problems and lots of oil, but he takes the win light at 517, 273 miles an hour. We'll be right back to Indianapolis Raceway Park for more of the U.S. Nationals.
Welcome back to the U.S. Nationals here at Indianapolis Raceway Park. That is the nuclear banana of Eddie Hill. Pennzoil Top Fuel are ready to light up the big tires. Let's check in with Steve Evans and Larry Dixon.
Larry, a little case of new car blues or something else?
No, it's probably the typical Indy luck I've seen so many times before. We had a $2 hose break on the return line system, and it just poured fuel under the tires, and she's up in smoke.
Corey Mack now, the McDonald's entry, backing up the Lee Beard tuned machine, set to go here in round number 2 at the U.S. National.
Now, Corey McLanathan has never won Indy, but the McDonald's team has with former driver Ed McCullough, and crew chief Lee Beard knows this pavement. They live in this town. Eddie Hill, he came so close, Ralph, back in 1993 when he made the final round against Connie Coletta, but Coletta was just too much under the lights here on a rainy night. Corey McLanathan, very emotional this weekend. He grew up racing alcohol races with Blaine Johnson. In fact, the first national event he ever won, Blaine was in the other lane. And in fact, when Blaine perished here Saturday, Corey Mack was in the other lane. Eddie Hill, Corey McLanathan.
Oh, Hill smokes him, and Corey's going to move on.
With a very solid 474 at 306 miles per hour. Lee Beard, crew chief Mike Green have got a handle on this car. If Corey can drive it steady, well, Kenny Bernstein may be in trouble. Here comes the king of speed, the number 2 qualifier, the quickest car going into eliminations here in round number 2.
And of course, this is going to be a real tricky matchup too, because he's going to go up against Jim Head in the car that is tuned by Alan Johnson. Let's check in with Steve at the far end.
Well, Corey, if mid 470s will win this race, I could be looking at the champ, a 74.
74, yeah, I was pretty aggressive out there, but we knew we had to step up, try to run a 70 flat. We ran 74, a little bit off, but I'll tell you, just glad to be here. It's Indy, man. It's time to win a race.
The fans here are going nuts every time Jim Head advances to another round. They can win this event. There might not be anything left of IRP when we're done. Well, you know, keeping the front end down on one of these top fuel dragsters is not an easy thing to do. And Steve took a look at how Kenny's team does it.
You may think of the fuel in Kenny Bernstein's tank as just that, nitromethane to make the engine run. It's far more important. It is also ballast and very important to the balance of this car. In 15 seconds, idling, they burn 1 gallon of fuel. That is 9 pounds. So they time everybody's operation. They know how long it takes each team to stage, and they start this car accordingly to not burn off that ballast and do a wheel stand. And let's remember, Kenny Bernstein won his 3rd race just 2 weeks ago in Brainerd. He's reset the national record twice this year. A heavy favorite to win the championship now. Bernstein has problems, tries to get back in it. There's nothing there. Alan Johnson and the fans have gone crazy on the starting line as Jim Head wins it 480-295.
Let's take a look at what happened to Kenny. You'll see both cars launch just fine. In fact, it looks like Kenny gets out just a hair quicker. But just about halfway down at the 8th mile mark, things go away for Kenny Bernstein. Watches the flames go out, and then he tries to get back in it, and there's nothing there. Jim Head advances, and he stands by with Steve.
This is simply amazing.
Well, this is how it's supposed to be, Steve. We've just been having it wrong for about the last 10 years.
That wheel stand, you had to think, uh-oh.
Nah, not with a wheelie bar. Wasn't a problem at all.
A 480, a 470 in qualifying, a 477 first round. Alan Johnson is helping this car a bit.
Oh, no question about that, although I hate to think that he can only make it run a 480 because he can definitely make it run a 460. I'm not sure until we get back and see what the numbers look like on the computer, but kind of shocks us. We thought we'd step it up. Obviously, we're not going to try to throw a 488 KB, but one thing about drag racing, you got to get from A to B, and we just did it.
Well, like he said, they're probably going to need more than a 480 as the day marches on. 470s, definitely 460s by the time they get to the finals. So Mike Dunn now, we'll see what he can do. If he can throw up a 460, he's going to need that 460 to get past the 5-time champ, Joe Amato, a team that has definitely improved here in the second half of the season.
On paper, this is pretty much a Gollum deal. Qualified number 4 Amato, qualified number 5 is done. As you look at the supercharger drive belt, it takes about 400 horsepower just to turn over that supercharger. And Amato is up in smoke instantly. Mike Dunn powers through in the Mopar car owned by dear old Gwen.
So a 495 for Mike Dunn will give him lane choice when he comes up against Tony Schumacher in the semifinals. And the low ET of the round went to Corey Mack, who will have lane choice up against Jim Head. What a story that'll be. Steve?
Well, Mike, you're the expert, but this racetrack doesn't seem to be as good as it was round 1.
Well, yeah, and we did back her off a little bit just because, you know, basic conditions, they were get a little bit greasy as it gets hotter, and Ken Vinny and the crew wanted to be a little bit conservative and just try to get this Mopar in the next round. You know, obviously it put some cylinders out and got pretty ugly, but it's a round win.
And a 495 even got him lane choice. That's how goofy this round has been.
Speaking of goofy, how about John Force? Can he get to the Winston Funny Car title? Maybe one more round closer. We come back to Indy.
Nothing pounds the ground or smokes the tires like NHRA's AA Fuel Funny Cars, and you're on board with John Force. Round 2 at the U.S. Nationals, our Race of the Week coverage. He's up against Chuck Etchels, but let's have a look at points coming in. As we said, if John can go 2 rounds past Tony and 1 round past Cruz, he will clinch the championship, the earliest it's ever been done. Force beat Hartman first round, Etchels got by Smith, so on and so forth. In the top half of the ladder, the other side of the ladder, we'll see Tony Pedregon up against Al Hoffman. Ray Higley, who Ralph talked about at the top of the show, an amazing story against Del Worship.
The funny car points battle really, Steve, is a battle for second place. The question is, when does John Force clinch the Winston Funny Car Championship. And if he can do it here today, boy, what a big money weekend will be for John Force, having already clinched the Big Bud Shootout yesterday. Force stands a chance of making almost $500,000 here this weekend.
Biggest payday in drag racing history. Chuck Etchells qualified number 9 at 303 miles an hour, so he's no pushover. Force left first. Etchells pulled even. Whoa! Etchells gave him everything he possibly had. But John Force at a 5:08, 304 miles an hour will go to the final 4.
That was big for John Force to get past Etchells. That could have been the one that could have knocked him off. Here's Tim Wilkerson in the Napa Auto Parts NG Caneback machine. And he's going to go up against one of John's arch nemesis, Bruce Pedregon. John, the loquacious one at the far end.
John, you're running like you want that $50,000 bonus, huh? 5:08, 306.
Yeah, but this old Pontiac, she's off. We changed the whole ignition system, Steve. Something was wrong with the Maori stuff. It never goes wrong. We ain't dropping spark plugs or nothing. It just ain't running right. But another round for Castro. We're excited. Well, boys, we ain't doing bad. Got to watch my boy coming up here soon.
Force is the only guy that can climb out of a car that just ran 5:08 at 304 and saying, it ain't running right.
That's John, and he can feel it in the seat of his pants. Cruz Pedregon, the defending champion in the Vicky D's Pontiac in the near lane owned by Joe Gibbs. Tim Wilkerson, I'm telling you, is a win looking for a place to happen. Out of the alcohol ranks, got Ron Swearingen tuning that car. It's the old Casey Spurlock car that was in the finals here like 3 years ago, but still will run over 300 in the very low 5s.
I think you're exactly right, Steve. That's a team that's been coming on strong. Could be here today in Indy.
Wilkerson just needs the seat time. Cruz, one of the better levers when he's on, and he's on today. He welds Wilkerson, used him like a doormat, but look at Wilkerson. Pedregon only wins by about half of a fender, but he runs quicker than Force at 5:05, 3:08.
And faster as well with that 3:08. But you're right about Cruz here on the line, and that probably made the difference and saved it for Cruz. He got out just a tick quicker than Wilkerson, and look at the Napa car dancing all over the racetrack. Had it been absolutely straight, he would have won because he was quicker. Steve?
Cruiser, without your good driving, that 5:05 would not have been enough. He ran an 0.3.
This is Indianapolis. This is our show out here, but I have to say that Tim Wilkerson's a class act. I really like the guy, but that's a strong car. Ron Swearingen tunes it, but this is Indy. This place doesn't care about big points leads. We're gonna do good today.
This is a real interesting matchup here as well. Jimbo Ermolovich has been, there's Jimbo right there, has been working on this Parts America car, Val Hoffman's. They've been getting better. Tom Anderson, the old crew chief, used to go soft on the motor and hard on the clutch. Jimbo goes hard on the motor and soft on the clutch, and it's taken them just a few races to dial it in. And they think they're ready to go beat up on people like this car tuned by that man, John Medlin.
And John Force jumped on his motor scooter, and there he is, as he said he would be to watch his boy. He's trying to put Tony Pedregon into the number 2 slot and collect that share of the Winston bonus cash at the end of the year. Good even lead. Tony Pedregon, too aggressive, too much. Jimbo Ermolovich has the handle on the Hoffman car at 5:05, 300.
Well, I think that's an indication of how hard Jimbo's leaning on that motor. There's Jerry Ekman's crew going to work on the Pennzoil Pontiac as we get set to come back with Pro Stock after this from Indy.
We are back at the U.S. Nationals, Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm Steve Evans along with Ralph Sheen and Bob Fry. And it's time for the final pair in the second round of funny car competition. And there is Roland Leong, one of the winningest car owners in the history of this category, wrenching for Ray Higley with all the talent in the world this week, and especially driving. And Del Worship, I personally feel one of the best young wheelmen in funny car racing today. His father, Chuck, backs away. Corey Lee, the crew chief on the car. It's a pretty even matchup, I'd say, Ralph.
It really is, Steve. It's the old veteran with a lot of experience up against a very hungry, young and aggressive driver, and Del Worship could go either way.
Ooh, Worship is up in smoke. Old age and treachery over youth and exuberance. Ray Higley's car, a little bit of something out from under the car, and it slowed down to a 524, but still, he's going to the Final Four with the big guy.
Now, Worsham's crew came at this racetrack pretty hard here in this round, and the track just wasn't ready for all the muscle they tried to throw at it. Smokes up the tires right off the line, and Ray Higley and Roland Leong will go on one more round. And we'll find out if they can tune their way around Al Hoffman and Jimbo Ermilovich. Al will have lane choice. And the other matchup, there's a war. John Force and Cruz Pedregon, and that McDonald's car's looking awful stout.
Ray, there was a little flash underneath the car, and then it slowed way up from a 503 to a 524.
Yeah, I think we heard it. That's the only bad thing. Got a little liquid down there that never looks good on anything.
Have you got the parts?
We got a spare block. We'll give it our darndest to get back here and get the red line oil and the Mopar and land our...
And all that stuff.
All that good stuff, right. Thank you very much.
You bet. He's just having a good time.
And we're all having a lot of fun watching Ray Higley and Roland Leong march through the U.S. Nationals. Let's switch now over to the factory hot rods, Pro Stock. Let's drop back a little and show you what happened here in round number one. You see Yates put away Bob Glidden. Troy Coughlin got past Dester Cambron when Dester had problems with his car in round number one. Now we'll take you back to round number two when Coughlin and Yates matched up. And Yates just muscles his way past. That Richard Maskin motor doing the job at 708, 184. Puts him away. Steve?
For Jim Yates, it is the best time of eliminations, and you needed all of a 708.
I'm going to tell you, that crew, and Dick Maskin and the whole crew down there has got this car just flying right now. This Pontiac is fast.
Next up, it was Kurt Johnson up against Rookie of the Year candidate Tom Martino in the near lane. Remember, Warren Johnson, Kurt's dad, was out. Kurt was up to the task, 711 to a 712. I talked to him. I tell you, watching that one, I wasn't sure who I was going to talk to. Whoa.
I was going to hit him there for a minute. I was trying to get in his lane. It was going left, and man, you knew Tommy was going to be tough. You know, he's been running good all weekend, but the Delco Battery Pontiac just pulled through that time.
11 to a 12.
Good deal. All we was looking for was a win light there.
Well, that sets up the semifinal pair in the top half of the ladder. It'll be Yates up against KJ. Now let's take you back and show you what happened on the bottom side of the ladder. Of course, the big news here is what happened with Warren Johnson, the number 2 qualifier, breaking that wheelie bar. That allowed Jerry Ekman to go on to meet Thomas in round 2.
Jerry Ekman, the Pennzoil Pontiac in the near lane. The gum-out car of Mike Thomas on the far side, and it was Ekman having a wonderful U.S. Nationals at 7:11, 194 miles an hour.
It's been a long time since we've been to the semis. And I got to say, we're thrilled to be here with this Pennzoil car, and I'd like to say thanks to my fans. You know, that's something that always gets forgotten, the fans. And boy, I got a big fan following.
So does Ricky Smith, who went up against Larry Morgan.
Smith really came in the underdog a bit. Morgan had just been thundering with that refrigerator white car in the far lane, but he wasn't up to Smith's 712. Morgan carted a 718.
Yeah, I've been late all day. I don't know what the deal is. I'm trying to get ready. I don't know. I just ain't ready today. But I better.
712 isn't terrible.
No, it ain't bad, you know. I mean, just luckily he run that 18, I guess. But hey, that 808's pretty bad by Yates, but we got to get there.
So the semifinal pair on the bottom side of the ladder now will be Jerry Ekman up against tricky Ricky Smith, with Ekman in the Pennzoil car getting the lane choice.
And Kurt Johnson's excursion all over the right-hand lane has given the lane choice to Jim Yates. Will it make a difference in Pro Stock? Does it matter which lane you have? Well, these fans, they don't really care, actually. They're just having a great time at the U.S. Nationals. Stay with us.
We are back at the Big Go, the U.S. Nationals here at Indianapolis Raceway Park. And you can see how massive a facility we have here with Pro Stock semifinal action getting set to get underway. Jerry Ekman and Ricky Smith.
The National Hot Rod Association rules require that these cars weigh 2,350 pounds with the driver on board. So it's really not a huge advantage to have a jockey-sized driver over a bigger guy. Ricky Smith, the carrier-backed entry, backing up over in the far lane. Jerry Ekman in the near lane. 500 cubic inches, the maximum engine size, and that is checked with regularity, as is the fuel for any additives. It has to be high-octane racing gasoline through those two 4-barrel carburetors. 5-speed transmissions. That's about it. That's a pro stock car.
And we're hearing now that 1,200 horsepower is starting to creep up closer to 1,300 horsepower out of some of these motors.
Well, one thing you can count on with any pro stock team, they will never tell you the truth about anything, because it's the tiny little speed secrets that win races. It's the whole combination. They will do anything to mislead me, Ralph, Bob, or the fellow competitors particularly.
So Ricky Smith going up against Jerry Ekman. Smith's best performance of the year might have been at Englishtown earlier this year when he qualified with low ET.
Absolutely, they're on the rev limiter. Release the clutch, the second rev limiter comes into play. 8,000 RPMs, and Ricky Smith, 709 at 194 miles an hour, defeats Jerry Ekman. Ekman had a big day, though. He came out of the 15th hole to make it to the final 4.
Well, Troy Humphries really felt when he got in Ricky Smith into his car that things would start turning around for this team. Maybe here in Indianapolis it's going to pay off. You can see Ricky getting off the line. A good, solid performance in that machine. It just motors its way down the racetrack to a 709. Strong enough to put away the 713 of Jerry Ekman. This shot here will give you a good idea of the advantage horsepower will give you at the far end. Steve?
Well, Ricky, I tell you, you must have taken some medicine or something because your reaction times are back.
Hey,
terrific.
What I have, man?
In the 7.0s.
Oh, a good run, good run. I don't know who I got to run, but I'm just glad to be in the finals.
We're glad to see you there. Been a long time.
So Kurt Johnson, with the help of his father, Warren Johnson, will now try to put away Jim Yates. And here's a look at the points and why this is so important for Warren Johnson to see Kurt advance, because he cannot afford to lose a round to Jim Yates anywhere between now and the end of the year.
And Jim Yates, I'm sure, well remembers last year when he went out first round with a broken rear end, and how later on in the program it was Kurt Johnson, how should I put this, taking a dive for his father to get him to the final in his 4th consecutive Indy. So now it's Kurt carrying the family banners against the man who would take their title. Kurt away first. Oh, Kurt. A walkover of Jim Yates. Something I don't think anybody expected for Kurt to win by that kind of a margin at 709, 194 miles an hour.
Especially Jim Yates. He didn't expect that himself. This one won right here at the lights. Kurt will leave with a 471 reaction time. Not phenomenal, but a lot better than a 592 from Jim Yates, who has spent a lot of time this year working on his reaction times. That is really unusual for Jim here this year. The far end, the times are pretty close. A 709 to a losing 708. And Yates been a little quicker on the lights. This picture might have been reversed. In the finals, we'll see Kurt Johnson against Ricky Smith. Ricky with late choice. Here's Steve.
You know, it doesn't really matter how quick you ran. You're in the finals of the U.S. Nationals, something your dad has done the last 4 years.
This is absolutely a racer's dream come true here. You know, the wife, we're expecting our first child in 2 months, and, you know, I got the most fabulous crew, Kevin Horst and Bob Lawson, and I think I got a top fuel rider riding with me today.
This race can put you at a loss for words. Good job.
Sure can, Steve. And it's also going to put Mike Dunn into the semifinals in top fuel, which we'll have for you when we come back to Indianapolis right after this.
We're back at the NHRA U.S. Nationals, Indianapolis Raceway Park. Tony Schumacher in top fuel as we go to the Final Fours is not just a Cinderella story. is in many ways mission impossible. I repeat, 2 weeks ago, he didn't even have a license. But earlier today, Bob Fry did some check it out.
The new driver for the Peak Brothers layback-sponsored Top Fuel car is Tony Schumacher. Now, Tony might be new to driving a Top Fueler, but heck, he's not new to drag racing. His dad, Don, won here at Indy back in the early 1970s, and Tony's been actually doing some sportsman racing over the last couple of years. As a matter of fact, there aren't a lot of guys that can come in and race a Top Fuel car and say they're actually slowing down. You see, a couple of years back, he drove for Wayne Knuth in the Odyssey Jet car, and driving that, Tony went way over 300 miles an hour. All right, well, maybe not way over 300, but it makes for a good story. So here's a kid with racing in his genes and speed in his blood, and all he wants to do now is get in the winner's circle.
Well, Ralph Shaheen, one thing Tony didn't have to worry about with that jet car were traction problems with the thrust vehicle, and that has been the key, especially in the far lane here today. And he's up against one of the very best, Mike Dunn and Daryl Gwynn's car. Jerry Gwynn, Daryl's dad, manager of the team out front. Ken Vinny tunes that car.
There's a great shot of the motor if you ever wondered what a 6,000 horsepower nitro motor looks like strapped behind your head. There you go.
Mike Dunn's foot connected to those red circles, those butterflies. Oh, they're both up in smoke.
What rookie?
Exactly, what rookie? Pedaling that car for all he was worth was Tony Schumacher. In fact, one time he pedaled at the front end, came up in the air. Just amazing.
And he's not going to learn that driving a jet car either. That is just born talent. Look at this. Both cars go up in smoke right away. Dunn's motor lets go at the same time, and he is out of it. At this point, however, Tony has no idea where Dunn is. All he knows is I got to get this baby to hook up to get to the far end. Look at the front end up in the air. It's crossed up. It's heading in every direction but the finish line. Tony powers on through, gets it to finally get enough traction to get the win line. Now, real time with Dunn. That is called banging a blower. Let's check in with Steve and Tony Schumacher.
Your dad has got to be coming out of his skin to beat Mike Dunn in a pedaling contest in your first ever race. Maybe you were born to drive one of these cars.
Oh, I love this. This is absolutely fantastic. When I got in the car, they said this is going to be a battle of the drivers. And, you know, I've always watched Dunn. I think he's one of the best drivers in the world. I'm so proud of the layback systems, Peak Brothers Top Fuel dragster. I could just start crying right now, man. Been a rough day for everybody. You know, this is going out to Blaine and the whole Johnson family. It's a tragedy what happened, and you know, this ride's for him.
I wonder where you learned this technique of pedaling this car. Is it something that comes natural to you? Your alcohol car didn't need that.
You know, I used to pedal it a lot in that car, but when I got in it, they said this is going to be the first time. If you got to pedal it and you don't see him, you keep getting in it. And I was hitting that throttle, it was pulling my foot off, and I was just going for the ride of a lifetime. It was fantastic. Other than that, boy, I'm just so excited.
Getting to be a pro with his interviews as well. Tony Schumacher making quite a story out of the U.S. Nationals, and either way, this becomes a great story here out of this pair. Jim Head, the car tuned by Alan Johnson. Corey Mack, the driver that was in the other lane. One way or the other, this becomes an emotional story here.
It does, and for many of the fans and officials alike, I think that Jim Head has suddenly become kind of a surrogate for Blaine himself. The car virtually identical in construction. The engine a bit different, but Alan Johnson is changing that slowly but surely. In the near lane, Corey McLennan, there's Lee Beard, the guy we talked about before. Let me tell you what, Beard is involved in a lot of forms of racing around town, are interested in it. And if he doesn't look good at the races, they really get on you. There's a lot of bragging rights in this town, which in many ways is the center of American motorsports. Ah, listen to him. The difference there was Corey McLennan then hit on all 8 cylinders for 1,320 feet, and Jim Head did not. Simple as that. 473 beats a 483.
I would say Lee Beard looks pretty good right now to all of his buddies around Indy. Watch this one. As Steve said, you can see the flames coming out of Corey Mack's motor. They're going to stay bright and shiny all the way down the quarter mile here at Indy. Jim Head's car did a pretty good job of 483, 293 on this day. Those numbers aren't too bad, but not good enough to put away Corey Mack. So, final pair. We'll see Corey Mack and Tony Schumacher. Corey with lane choice.
And I'm with Corey Mack, who has never won the U.S. Nationals. You are pumped up.
We're ready to go, man, but And I can't help but think of Blaine, you know, I really can't.
Yeah, we all are. Steady 470s, man. You've been conservative, yet right on the mark.
Yeah, and we're just going to take this next one real easy. Schumacher's been there all day. We're just going to have to do what we can. Thanks.
He could win this one. He should win this one, really.
Boy, the emotion just bubbling over inside of Corey Mack. And this guy going to be a little emotional as well. Maybe a shot at a final. Hasn't seen one since Pomona. Welcome back to the U.S. Nationals here at IRP. That's Ray Higley in the red line oil machine getting set to go up against Al Hoffman. Two drivers who happen to be members of, you know, the NHRA. And you too can be a member of the NHRA for $57 a year. You get all the copies of National Dragster they send out every year, as well as a patch, a pin, a decal, and a rule book, and a copy of Drag Racing 95. You call that number at the bottom of the screen.
Well, here, the first race of the Final Four is an unlikely combination. Al Hoffman always expected to do well. He's won the Big Bud Shootout 3 times at this racetrack. It was won yesterday by John Forrest. Ray Higley's never won nothing. And apparently won't here today. Al Hoffman on a wire. 5:03. Kudos all around. 297 miles an hour. And for Ray Higley, they knew you were here.
Whoa, and big problems for Hoffman as he locks up the rear end. Here's a look at John Force. Nobody does pronounce better. Cruz heats him up just as much as he needs to. Let's check in now with Steve. Steve, did Al lock up the rear end?
He sees a whole lot of oil. It didn't break a rear end. It was sliding around in its own oil, and he parked it here like a winged sprint car. You broke a rod around before, ruined everything. You may have done it again.
Well, we didn't break a rod. We broke a lifter, but we put a fresh motor in. I don't think it broke a rod. It was too smooth, but it spun real hard when I stepped on it, and it might have used up some motor early. But hey, we got the wind light. That's all that counts.
That is all that counts. Now, the only other thing that counts is who will he face in the finals here at the U.S. Nationals. Will it be John Force or will it be Cruz Pedregon?
Cruz Pedregon can delay John Force winning his 6th championship with a victory here. He certainly is not going to be able to prevent it. And I'll tell you right now, Al Hoffman wants Force in the final. He wants Force anytime, day or night, racetrack or back alley.
And remember, if Force wins this round, it is his 6th Winston Funny Car Championship.
Cruz Pedregon, who's had really more success here at Indy than John Force. Cruz staged a little late, and it was a little late on the lights. John Force, listen to this, a 5:10 at 3:01 beats a 5:06 at 3:03. Pedregon, had he left just with John, would have advanced to the finals again.
Take a good look at this, because this pass qualifies John Force as a 6-time Winston Funny Car Champion. And he did it in classic Force style as he puts away another one of his arch rivals. John Force motors on down here at Indy to win a 6th Winston Championship. Force will go into the finals. What a weekend he could have, but Hoffman will have lane choice. Steve?
And John, you have clinched your 6th championship with a whole shot victory over the evil red machine.
You know, he outran me?
Yeah, he did.
Well, I'll tell you something, this ain't about money no more, because I don't get none, but what this is all about is an old truck driver here that ain't giving up. We ain't too old. The whole world ain't old. I ain't old, but well, I got another round to go, then I'm getting drunk.
And here's something that'll help that out. Some champagne, a mini celebration. Deb Britzen, come on in here. Jennifer Schrum, the entire Winston drag racing team. An early celebration for John Force. All right, congratulations again, bud.
Can I do this for the final?
That's all. He spit it out. It's okay, folks. He spit it out. He's a teetotaler anyway.
That right.
John Force. There is no victory lane celebration or post-race interview like a Force interview.
Meet one of funny car racing's most colorful and feared drivers in the Diamond P video. John Force, still the one. Relive his rise to 5 championship titles.
Championship's what it's all about. It's why we came.
How he dominated the competition.
They tell me the nightmare's over, but goodies, it ain't.
And how he walked away from some of racing's most terrifying incidents.
When you're on fire, you're ready to fight. You're ready to stand up and say, hey!
See why John Force is still the one to beat. Call 1-800-651-3366 or write to the address on your screen.
We're back at Indianapolis, the U.S. Nationals. 6 cars remain out of over 1,000 that started this race last Wednesday. The Pro Stock final round. Tricky Ricky Smith. Does he have a trick in his bag? For Kurt Johnson. Johnson out of the racing family. Sugar Hill, Georgia. North Carolina home for Ricky Smith. Ricky, a very slight starting line advantage. Ricky Smith may win his first ever. No, he will not. Kurt Johnson from behind wins this race route by 1/1000th of a second.
Boy, this is the way a Pro Stock final should be. Kurt Johnson and Ricky Smith going at it. Off the line, the advantage goes to Ricky Smith. At the far end of the racetrack, however, Kurt beats him to the line by 1/100th of a second. A 7:07 to a losing 7:08. Steve.
And Kurt, you have saved the best for last. A stunning 7:07.
We needed every bit of that. You know, he had a fender on me out there, and I don't know what he ran, but man, that was a drag race. Delco Batteries, Pontiac, Mark Christopher, Pennzoil, all the people that helped me. I got to dedicate this race to Blaine Johnson, though, and my wife, who's 7 months pregnant. This is the greatest.
I'll tell you, the prize money will help furnish that nursery, won't it?
I bet the old man's smiling. You know, he was over changing valve springs before that fun. I think we even got him working now.
I keep him on the payroll. Okay, guys.
Kurt Johnson gets the win. Jim Yates will hold on to the points lead in the Winston Pro Stock point standings. WJ needed his son to help him out there a little bit. He stays alive in the title chase. To the Top Fuel final pair, we'll see Corey Mack going up against Tony Schumacher. And what a battle this is going to be, Steve.
Well, it really shouldn't be. Corey Mack has far the better car, far the better crew, all the resources. The Peak brothers, well, they've had a Cinderella story with a rookie with a horseshoe somewhere inside that car. This is Corey Mack's race to lose. The kid hangs in little half track, but Lee Beard wasn't going to make a mistake. As he told me before, all we need is to shoot par. We don't need any birdies. A 473 at 306 miles an hour.
Pretty good par. This one, like Steve said, was all Corey Mack. Tip of the hat, though, to Tony Schumacher and the entire Peak Brothers crew for doing a great job of getting to the finals of the U.S. Nationals, his first ever Top Fuel race. Even if you went up and smoked Tony, not a problem. Good day for you. Corey Mack, stout. What else can you say? You get the win light. Steve?
They are based in Indianapolis, and Corey Mack, did you ever want anything more in your life?
Not in my life. Never have. I got to thank McDonald's, Interstate Batteries, Easy Care, Shell Oil, Champion Spark Plugs. I mean, everybody. Goodyear, the guys did a great job, you know. And I'll tell you what, when I get there and get that trophy, it's going to Alan Johnson. Blaine, we love you, buddy.
Can't add a word to that.
Boy, those eyes were lit up bigger and brighter than the wind lights were. Now there's a look at the Winston Top Fuel point standings, the top 5. Corey Mack will slot in 5th.
Now let's talk a little bit about Al Hoffman. You see his wife Helen in the cowboy hat out there as the body comes down. Al has had a lot of success here in the Big Bud Shootout, but not so much in Indianapolis final rounds. And this could be a real season saver for Al, who won the first race of the year and pronounced he was going to just stomp on John Force. Well, that hasn't happened. Force yesterday, $100,000 in the Big Bud. A $50,000 bonus if he wins here. The event purse, $250,000. Ride 'em, Al. Al Hoffman up, power wheel stand. Let's Force get away. 5:13, 301 miles an hour, and there they are for the 6th time Winston champs and U.S. Nationals champ.
One in-car shot from Al Hoffman. Sky high and away goes John Force. Wow, look at him power away.
And And there's going to be one big party. You can't accomplish any more in one weekend than you have.
I'm drinking me some Budweiser tonight for NHRA and Winston and Castro, Pontiac, Mac Tool. That was a drag race. I don't know what happened. Looked like his front end stood up out there about 300 feet.
It did.
That boy went deep. He went after old Forsey. This old fat truck driver, tough. Can I tell you that? Hey, he's a great racer and I love him. He went in, top lights went out and everything. I said, oh, we're going to do that. We're going to dance again, huh?
Tough and rich after winning $500,000 here on the weekend. I hope this guy never quits. John Force wins the championship and the race. Oh, what a weekend. And what a party those guys are going to have. Wish we could televise that. A promotional consideration has been made by Ryder, the official transportation company of Opryland, USA. So we leave the 42nd U.S. Nationals and leave you with one last Indy tribute to Blaine Johnson with the help of the Purdue Men's Choir.
Blaine was a winner in every part of his life. He left in a position he cherished very much, the pole position. Join us, the Johnson Racing Team, and give Blaine a big, big cheer for his final pole position.